just like you can with the Rodecaster Pro and probably the Rodecaster Pro II, which I haven't gotten to touch yet. Rode, help a brother out. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Joe Finley, and today is a long-awaited day because we finally got the Rodecaster Pro II. It's important to note that Rode sent me all of this stuff to review. They also sent me this, so I had a Rode microphone to test it with, but little did they know I have 2 Rode Pod mics. Shh. But this is in no way a paid sponsorship or anything like that. I get to say what I want about it, and I get to write whatever I want about it, because as always, if you want to read what I have to say about it, you can go to cgmagaonline.com and you can read my full article there. Now, I was an early adopter of the Rodecaster Pro I. In fact, I have my Rodecaster Pro right here in this dope case. Because if you're going to own something dope, you put it in a dope case, baby. And this is not just some kind of flashy update to get more people to buy the Rodecaster Pro II. There are tons of improvements in this thing. Rode has done something very important in this update, and that is listen to people. They've seen successes from other devices in the space, and they have made those improvements. They've listened to what people like about those devices, what people don't like about it. A lot of things came native to it right away. Some things have come via update. We want to talk about all of it, so let's get right into it. So in the box, you obviously get the Rodecaster Pro II, and you get a USB-C to USB-C cable and the power cable, which is also USB-C. Now, if you look in the back, you see 4 mic inputs, which can also be line inputs for an instrument or something like that. You have 2 monitor outputs for speakers, 4 headphone outputs, 2 USB-C ports, which is really important, and we'll get into that in a minute. An Ethernet port, so you can actually put wired internet into this thing. Another USB-C port, and that one's for the power and the power button. Also, just above the Ethernet port, you see a little spot for a micro SD card, and that allows you to record audio directly to the device. On the top surface, you have a virtual treasure trove of buttons and knobs and all sorts of other fun things. Obviously, first is the beautiful LED display you can see right here. Everything is actually touch screen as well, so if you touch different things, you can bring up the menus for different inputs. You can change what's on the Soundpad, all sorts of different stuff from here. We'll get into that in another video. We're going to do a full tutorial on this. You see to the left, we have the record button to record audio directly onto the Rodecaster Pro II. You have 6 faders, but don't fret, my friends. There's actually 9 total controllable inputs to this thing, and we'll show you how that works too. You have buttons across the bottom to monitor and mute certain tracks at your discretion. The buttons across the top of the faders bring up the menu for whatever particular input you have selected there. And on the right, you have Rode's famous Soundpad. But what they did brilliantly here is it's not just an 8-button bank. It is actually up to 8 banks of 8 buttons, giving you 64 different buttons that have all kinds of different controls. You can add sound effects.
You can change your voice any which way you want.
You can go really high pitch.
You can be in the witness protection program.
And you can be a robot if you're so inclined.
You can even turn one of the buttons into a sensor button, and it is about time. And on the top right, you have the controls for the different headphone jacks. And then you have this special knob, which is kind of magic. It can do a lot of things. You're going to use it to change things in settings. You're actually going to use it to control the 3 faders that are not here. To show you how to do that, I just click here, and I can go between any of my extra sources. Pretty awesome. And then you can turn the faders up and down just by turning the knob. So those are what are called the virtual faders on here, and they're all done in one spot. And it's really nice because it gives you all your sources in one place, but it puts ones that it might be a little less important to you just kind of off to the side. So let's talk about some of the improvements they made over the original Rodecaster Pro. First off, it is a little bit smaller than the original. Not a huge change in size, just a little bit. It's a little bit more squared off than it was before, but it's nice. It does feel more compact than the other one right off the bat. They've raised the LED screen a bit, so when it's sitting flat, you can still see it really nice, which I think is a nice little touch. The addition of an extra USB-C port in the back is really interesting because it allows you to connect to any second device that has USB-C. You can plug in another laptop, you can plug in another computer, you can plug in your phone or tablet, anything like that, and then use it as a playable device. Or in the case of computer, you actually have a 2 PC setup, so you can send audio from one to the other, vice versa, or just use them both as different audio devices to go directly in for audio recording. With the Soundpad, something that I like that that they really did was that they added the names of the sounds on the particular bank that you're on directly onto the LED screen so you can see what it is before you touch it. With the original Rodecaster, they gave you this like whiteboard kind of thing, and you had to just write in what you wanted, and it was a little cheat sheet that you had, except it was gigantic. It was about real-time size, the size of what the buttons actually are. Wasn't the best solution. This is definitely a much better one. It obviously color codes to the colors that are on the Soundpad, which are all customizable by you as you're working with it. And another genius thing they did was make it so you can actually put all of the different faders in any order that you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be all 4 microphones, then, you know, Bluetooth, then this, then that, then the other thing. You can do what I did because I only use 2 microphones in my podcast setup. So I only have the 2 microphones on the actual faders, and everything else is all different types of inputs. So I use the USB inputs, I use the Bluetooth input, and of course the Soundpad. It's wonderful to be able to change the order because it just makes the whole experience so much more customizable. Things like the Go XLR, the Beacon Mix Create, and all that all let you do that already. And now these guys have finally kind of caught up with that. And another thing that they've caught up with, routing tables. You can actually choose for yourself what sources are going out to your output. Now, something that wasn't included in the whole routing table thing was the Submix, but there's actually a way around that not a lot of people seem to actually talk about. It existed on the original Rodecaster Pro. It exists on this one as well. And all you need to do is utilize the buttons on the bottom. You have your mute buttons and your listen buttons. If you want to exclude certain things from going out to your stream, but you want to be able to hear them, all you have to do is mute and hit listen. So you'll still be able to hear what's on the input, but it wouldn't be going out here right now. The only thing you need to note when you do that, though, is you have to hit listen on every other source that you actually plan on listening to during that period. Otherwise, you're only going to be able to hear that one source. So as an example, my podcast, Miscast Commentary, go check it out down there. We watch movies in real time, so we have to be able to listen to them while we're doing our commentaries. So what we do via our Rodecaster Pro is we send it via our USB line, which then comes in, feeds in. I mute it. I also hit listen. Then I also hit listen to our 2 microphones, so my co-host and I can still hear each other. We can also hear the movie, but you're only hearing our voices. And I know that's not a true full view of a real submix. You know, I'm not sending out one set of levels to you guys and then having another set to myself where I can keep our microphones a little bit higher in our ears than I'm sending out to you or something like that. But until some firmware update gives you that functionality, this is the best we can do. And it's still not that bad. And the one thing Rode is really good for are their firmware updates. Right off the bat, before I even got my hands on this thing, they had already sent the firmware update to include all that routing table stuff. So it was something that they were working on. They just couldn't get it done in time for launch. But then they gave you the patch as soon as humanly possible. And they've always been really good for that. Another great thing that they do with their microphone inputs is that they have presets for different types of microphones. It has virtually the entire line of Rode microphones in there, including the Procaster, which I have put the preset for that particular microphone on. But they even offer you some non-Rode presets. They have the Electro Voice RE20, and they have the Shure SM7B in there because they know people have those microphones, so why not give you the best opportunity to make it sound good using their device? And that's what I like about them. They're not going to let the fact that you might be using a competitor's mic get in the way of having the best possible sound. Also, to improve the overall sound coming out of the device, there's Revolution preamps built into the Rodecaster Pro II, and once again, they're using their Aphex processing, so you can have things like the Oral Exciter and the Big Bottom. Now, I wrote them down here so we can all, grow up. But there's an endless number of processing options that you actually have directly on this device, which is good again, because then you're not using software to do that. And then that's taking up resources on your computer that you might need to, stream. But speaking of software, this does have the Rode Central software that allows you to connect directly to your computer. And from there, you can do things like upload your own personalized sounds to the Soundpads. You can do firmware updates if you're not connecting the device directly to the internet via Wi-Fi or the Ethernet cable. And there's a lot of settings that exist on the device itself that you can also change within Rode Central, including display settings, different settings for your outputs. You can transfer your recorded content directly from the Rodecaster Pro to your computer using it, and you can set up all kinds of different formatting stuff, so you can export them as WAV, export them as MP3, whatever you want depending on what you actually need. Another really cool feature that they have with the Soundpad is that it doesn't always have to be a Soundpad. These buttons can become controllers. They have enabled bidirectional MIDI control control that you can assign to any of these buttons or all of these buttons. So if you have the appropriate MIDI plugins for whatever stream software you use, like OBS, and you hit a button on here, it can actually control a command on OBS. So with that simple addition, the Rodecaster Pro II just kind of became a stream deck as well. And there's so many more things. I can't even get into absolutely everything that this thing does in what I'm hoping is going to be a short video. I kind of doubt it. But in the coming weeks, I'm going to make a full tutorial video for the Rodecaster Pro II. It's going to be a longer one, but you'll be able to master the thing in a single video. So keep an eye out for that. In fact, if you're watching this and that video's already come out, there's going to be a little card right here. And if there's not a card there right now, then you and I are sharing a special moment, and I want you to look right into my eyes and write down in the comments what you were thinking about while you were staring into my soul. And also let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Rodecaster Pro II? It is an expensive boy. It's $699 US, but for everything it does and does really well, I think that's more than a fair price. I know it's hard to say because people spend their hard-earned money to buy gear for streaming or YouTubing or podcasting, anything like that. And I've often come out against spending too much money when you're not actually earning from your channel. But the main takeaway from that is that the things you're spending your money on need to give you the value. And this thing gives you a lot of value. It is a fantastic mixer. It is now a wonderful streaming device, which I would not have said about the first one. And it can do so many more things than its predecessor. The only thing, aside from the hefty price tag that it's got going against it, is its size, because I have multiple devices on my desk, and all of them combined don't match up to the total real estate that this thing takes up. So if you don't have a lot of desk space, this might not be the thing for you. But if you're a podcaster and you're just going to throw some stuff on a table, then this thing could be great sitting right in the middle, and you've got your own little recording studio in front of you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it makes you want to see more with the tutorial that I'll have coming up. If you want to see some videos I did about other audio control devices, you can check these ones out right here. And until next time, gang, let's get to work.